Hey, it's your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. Zooming in, and I would like to focus in on a very interesting aspect of the covert narcissist, and that is the experience of indirect control that they have over the people who are intimately related to them in their life. The covert narcissist is exemplified by an excessive need for self importance, and coupled with, in tandem, a real lack of empathy, the inability to acknowledge, mirror, reflect, or discuss the feelings, needs, wishes, or interests of another. And they do this in a very sort of sly and indirect manner, essentially by commanding a very indirect control of a situation. And when I say indirect, I mean that they command an environment, they command a household, they command a department in an organization through a very quiet demeanor. And it is their identity of being more of a humanitarian, a giver, a provider, a strong gentleman, a strong female that is quiet and aloof, and more by virtue of their connections, or really their really a very sort of provision that they exude about their air gives them this indirect sort of control of the environment. But the issue really, and when it becomes an issue of complaint and an issue of exploitation and manipulation, is essentially when they exhibit that lack of empathy. In other words, there is no opportunity or forum or ability for you to discuss openly with them. They keep almost a martyrdom sort of experience where, by virtue of their humanitarian, their indirect control, their holier than thou persona, their identity of being the provider, and that you cannot taint them, you cannot tarnish them through conversation. And so it is their remaining aloof that creates this very sort of discreet but chronic and profound tension in the relationship. And oftentimes when people are initially attracted to them, it is, part of this demeanor that is attractive. Their intellect, their cerebral nature, their ability to provide, their connection. And so it becomes, initially in the relationship, an ability to basically admire this person for all these the softer qualities that make this person unique and special. And so you tend to expand on these, or really develop these and admire these outwardly and expressively in the relationship. And that really is probably the most attractive quality that you cherish with them. And then you assign this as a very sort of rare or idealized experience with them. And so you feel that they're really, because of this charm and because of this really sort of discreet and chivalrous nature that they might have about them if they're a man, or this very ladylike experience that you might feel around this person, that they're so they stand out from the crowd for you in this respect, that they're maybe old school in this way, or unique and different from others, that you really sort of latch on to this person and become very fixated on them. And realize though that what ends up happening though, as one progresses in the relationship, you feel in essence that you're really not audience enough for them. You begin to feel like you have to do more for them, to entertain them, to provide, to delve deeper, and you feel that there's this pervasive sense of an issue or something that has not been discussed. And that's because oftentimes this feeling that you're experiencing is because your own basic narcissistic needs, healthy narcissistic needs, which are acknowledgement, greetings, basic communication, mirroring of, you look nice today, or good to see you today, or how are you feeling today? Or, for example, when you get sick and, when you're down and out, your healthy narcissistic needs, in other words, to have someone attend to you, ask, how you're doing, is heightened temporarily. Or if you get a new position at work, or you've experienced an accomplishment in your life, you've gotten a promotion, you've completed a project, you've made a great, breakthrough in your artistic talent, and or some sort of accomplishment professionally, and in that moment, essentially you are deserving, expecting, and should be receiving a satisfaction of your basic healthy narcissistic needs, which is to have someone admire you, appreciate you, allow you to communicate, dominate the experience a little bit, have all eyes on you, attention on you, to be listened to be congratulated, all those things that are part of a healthy narcissistic experience. Is usually there's a void of that when you're dealing with a covert narcissist. So that is, as that progresses on, it becomes very, it becomes a very sort of deep and pervasive inner wound that you feel like something is missing, and you tend to give more and project, feelings that you feel like you're lacking onto them. And so it becomes really a double sort of giving that the other person who's involved with them has to really go through to maintain the relationship, because if you don't satisfy your own healthy narcissistic needs, you begin to feel the relationship crumbling or just not even existing at all. I mean, it's like it would almost disappear into thin air. It would evaporate. It would not be present, as if, because it's as if, you're holding all the glue, in the relationship. In other words, if you were to stop, there would be no relationship. And for most people, that is too hurtful to acknowledge, because if you're married or engaged or have this as a family member or a business associate, you have to keep it going. You have to keep something going. You have to keep, some sort of progress, communication, growth in the relationship, some sort of pleasure. And so oftentimes it becomes very much a martyrdom syndrome, where you're trying to resolve all these person's issues for them. And, you're constantly putting them first, and you're never getting it in return. And so as this habituates and continues again and again and again, it becomes basically an impaired role that you're experiencing. And as we know through the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, as you continue to stay stuck in this, you're habituating into the relationship, which means you're creating a true neural pathway in your brain, and then that is reflecting in your body, which usually becomes anxiety and depression and uncertainty, and then a reduction of low self-esteem, self-doubt, an avoidance of your own narcissistic needs, an avoidance of your own happiness, and then you really succumb to this sort of guilt, this feeling of insubordination, of feeling less than, of being ground down to a pulp, basically, a pile of dust, feeling like you're no longer having substance. And this is, the effect of being habituated. Habituated means to do something over and over and over again to the point where it becomes unconscious. So it becomes a negative habituation. So it's very important to first become acknowledging of this, aware of this, and then break that cycle. To break that cycle, you have to become more aware and use that metacognitive ability to see where you have fallen into the trap of habituating and giving too much, habituating and asking how this other person is doing, habituating and not receiving, where you have to provide them with accolades or gifts or attention, or asking about them first all the time, to the sacrifice of yourself. And even though healthy narcissistic needs would be to talk about yourself and have the attention on you, you've become so overly habituated to not receiving that it feels wrong to receive. So when you're in that, realize you need to really sort of readjust, readapt, and really become aware of these tendencies to give too much, to put others first way too much, to over-obligate to them, and realize that it is healthy, natural, and normal to receive and have a really strong security when you're around them. And begin to experience that security in yourself, in your opinions, in your emotions, in your viewpoints, in all the talents that you have. and begin to get very secure in that. And don't let it falter. Don't continue to feel like this person is more important than you, is superior to you, has a power over you either discreetly or overtly. Because sometimes, it can become even more pronounced where this person can even become covert psychopathic, where it really becomes very in-depth manipulation and exploitation if they perpetuate this cycle. So do learn to break free. Do learn to realize that your energetic boundaries are really distinct and separate from them, and begin to get in touch with your own gifts. If you can, and oftentimes what I find, and I apologize, the video is going on a long time here, that the codependent, because they're so habituated into this giving, they're really disconnected from their own talents, and they feel like they can't even own their own talents, their own goodness, their own gift in the relationship. And so they feel like this, reduced position constantly because it's so habituated. So the good news is realizing that this is a habituated experience in you. It is something that has been repeated and over and over and over, so it's become, in essence, like an automatic pilot. And realize this can be changed. It can be changed once you realize and become aware of it, and then stop that behavior. Become aware of when you're falling into the trap of asking about them, congratulating them, always putting them first, buying them their dinner, buying them their gift, asking about them first. Begin to really seriously and honestly begin with your I statements, and really when you're in touch with your gifts. And when I say in touch with your gifts, realize that your self-esteem arises from your solar plexus, which is essentially within the abdomen itself. And really you have to begin to experience a real physical strength in that solar plexus, where that's the origination of the I am statements. I am in control. I am inspired. I am talented. I am magnificent. I am a great giver of love. All these sort of I am statements that you know about yourself to be true, you need to get in touch with that. So I find it's oftentimes very therapeutic to, if you feel that this person has so overwhelmed you that they're in your solar plexus, that you're really sort of feeling out of control and really dominated by them, which is a very scary feeling. Just place one hand on your abdomen and really feel that solar plexus. And that is the seat of your empowerment and your inspiration. Become very protective of this area, especially of the body, around exploitive people, because they, especially the covert psychopath, which is kind of a very severe form of a covert narcissist, they really will try to get into the solar plexus, which will get into your I am, and try to dominate and really sort of reprogram your identity from this standpoint. So it can be very scary, horrifying when you have someone who is that exploitative, that manipulative, and that divisive to calculate really some hideous abuses of you. And realize that they do that in a very pre-calculated manner, and it's just they've been able to observe you enough to take advantage of you fully. So be very careful. Protect that solar plexus, that area of the body that is the origin of self-esteem, your I am statements, and where you really are empowered. And begin to keep your hand and allow that the heat and energy from your palm, which is very significant because a lot of your creation comes through your hands, and allow it just to warm that area of the body and re-energize it. And it's very important as you allow this message to really soak in. You'll realize that you really need to go over this again and again and again to get that personal power back. It's not okay to give this over to another person and be abused. Peace and harmony with you here today. I hope these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.